Greetings and salutations everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're gonna find out if this mobile GTX 960M is still usable for gaming in 2022. But before that, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe down below, and thank you for watching. Alright, so first thing is first, I'm gonna start off with the specs of this laptop, then jump into the upgrade options, followed by some gaming test benchmarks, and then we'll have our final conclusion. Is this laptop still worthy for gaming in 2022? And you be the judge. So let's begin. This is a 2016 model Asus gaming laptop, 15.6 inch, Full HD 1080p, and the model number is FX53VW-GH71, and it features Intel i7 6700HQ processor, which is 4-core and 8 threads, as well as 8 gigs of DDR4 RAM running at 2133 megahertz. Also, for the graphics card, we have a mobile version of the GTX 960M, which is only 2 gigabytes of VRAM GDDR5, as well as 1 terabyte 2.5 inch hard drive. Now this is, from what I understand, pretty much is the base model. But the good news, it does have some capability of upgrades as far as RAM and storage. So I'm just going to go over that in a little while. Okay, so let's go over all the features here. This thing still packs a lot, and that's what I like about the older laptops, because they really come with a lot of stuff, even though this is really not a powerful gaming laptop anymore. So what we have here, we have an HDMI connection on the left. We also have a full Ethernet jack right here, as well as 2 USB 3.0s, and yes, we have one USB Type-C right here, and this is our audio jack. So right there, that's pretty nice on the left. Next, on the right side, we have a USB 2.0, great for little devices like this. And for the really good feature that I still like for these old laptops is the DVD drive right here, and it's also RW, so you could burn some discs if you want, or watch some old DVDs. Really, it's up to you. But it's a cool little feature, as I'm sure you're well aware nowadays. These laptops, they don't have that anymore. This is still a pretty bulky size in my opinion, but overall it's well built and it's still in good condition after all these years. Also, as you could see, the keyboard is backlit, nice red color. I really have no complaint as far as size of it and the way it feels. We have a full HD 1080p display here, nothing fancy, it's very dull. This is, like I said, the lower end model here. Alright, so let's talk about the upgrades. Now, because of its size, you have some room to play with. So I did do 2 upgrades here, and as cheap as possible you could imagine. I kept the original hard drive, which is a terabyte, because I wanted a nice secondary storage. And I did add 120 gigabyte NVMe M.2 here, which was only like 20 bucks. So it has a slot in there for NVMe or M.2, whatever you want to call it. And you have a second slot for RAM. So I had an old RAM stick lying around, a 4 gigabyte with the same speed, same interface, DDR4. For a total now I have 12 gigabytes. Now, of course, it's better to be at 16, but first thing you should do, definitely add another stick so you can run in dual channel. That's very important. And 12 gigabytes running in dual channel is definitely a lot better than just running 8 gigabytes in single channel. So that's something to think about. But again, I had a small budget. Again, I only spent $20 for the additional drive for my boot drive, and about another $20 for a 4 gigabyte DDR4 RAM stick. So that was pretty cheap upgrade in my opinion. As far as the graphics card, I don't think you could do that. I mean, it's a bit complicated. I believe it's soldered on or something like that. So nothing really there. That's pretty much going to be your limit. And it is unfortunate that this card is only 2 gigabytes of VRAM, and we're going to talk about that as soon when we jump into the gaming test benchmarks. So as usual, when I test my laptops, I like to, especially these older heavy ones here, these things run hot, and you're going to see the temperatures. You're definitely going to need a nice cooling pad, and that's what I have here. I have it connected, 3 nice little fans. Once this thing is fully on, VSync off, I mean the temperatures are gonna go through the roof. We're talking about 96 Celsius. This thing is a hot burner. One way to keep the temperatures down with this thing is to have the VSync on. It will drop down to like maybe 80s, maybe high 70s, but that's about it. And if you play this thing on on your lap, man, your thigh is gonna burn. The thing gets really hot and loud. So I do recommend getting a cooling pad. And this thing is kind of bulky and not really one of those on-the-go type of things, unless you have like the setup here, you know, you just set it on the counter and you plug it in. And remember guys, especially for these big boys here, you gotta have the laptop plugged in, your AC adapter right here, AC charger. Otherwise you're not gonna get nowhere near the performance like you should. I mean, we're like maybe 50% less. So that's very important. Also, when it comes to your power management, you want to get those FPS, put it on high performance, set up your NVIDIA drivers in your NVIDIA control panel to all high performance and all that stuff to get the maximum FPS. And I'll have it connected to this small little monitor here, so get a little better angle when I record some of the gaming. So yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell here. Now I'm going to show you some of the gaming test benchmarks and then talk about if it's still worth keeping this thing. So stay tuned for that. Alright, so starting off with Fortnite here, there's some good news and the bad news. Now, the good news is on 1080p using the beta performance mode, you're definitely going to crush it. You're going to get a really good FPS, and I'm going to show you exactly what we got here. But the bad news is, with the VSync off, the temperatures are wild, and I'm sure you could hear in the background there that fan whistling, and that's with the cooling pad fans on as well. So let's take a look at the settings first. Alright, as you can see, we're in 1080p full screen, VSync off, on the lowest possible preset on beta performance. So a game like this is definitely gonna be no issues running, but check out these temps. That's right guys, look at that. And now I'm gonna show you, I'm gonna be honest with you guys so you know what happens with an old laptop like this. And if I unplug the cooling pad, it's gonna go to like mid to high 90s easily on the processor here. But as you could see, the game is running stable and the FPS are there. So for a game like this, you're still going to be good with this laptop. And if you want to lower the temps, you just turn on your VSync. Of course you're going to be locked at 60 FPS though, unfortunately. So that's really something to think about. Boom. Now let's lock those FPS so you kind of get an idea how the temperatures will drop here. So we're going to go ahead to 60. Oh, come on. There you go. Alright, so now you see that the temperatures dropped quite a bit here on both the GPU and the processor. So that's going to be a remedy. And again, not to stress this, but I am using a cooling pad with the fans on to the maximum. This thing will burn your knee off, I'm telling you. Alright, so this is pretty much one of the few games that you could actually play at 1080p. We're going to jump into something more graphically intensive, and for the rest of the games we're going to run at 720p, so stay tuned for that. Alright, and now we're jumping into something that's much harder to run, Cyberpunk 2077. Now this laptop is struggling to be barely playable on the lowest settings possible at 720p. And let's take a look at what we have here. We're on the lowest possible settings, everything turned down low, 100% scale resolution, 720p full screen. And this is what we get in, at least in this area, in the 30s, but once we get into an open area it's going to be in the 20s. And look at the temperatures, they're just crazy. I mean, this laptop from beginning was just so hot. And again, I am using the, you know, the cool pad here, so without it, it's going to be even hotter than this. It's somewhat playable, but nothing that I would recommend, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about overall this laptop. If it's relevant in 2022, yes, it could play some games, but it's slowly becoming more and more obsolete. Unfortunately, even though this is the 900 series mobile graphics card, the 960m, it's not capable of running a lot of the newer modern games, and that's what I came to an issue where I wasn't even able to start. First, it doesn't have the newer DirectX 12 capability, which I had troubles running, like God of War. I mean, couldn't even run it. It would give me an error saying that the DirectX 12 version is not new enough to run that game. Same thing with Elden Rings, and even a game like Halo Infinite, which on paper should run, but it wouldn't allow me because this card is only 2 gigs of VRAM, and usually I was able to bypass that, but I just couldn't do it with this laptop. I kept going in and it just wouldn't let me start. Sometimes there are workarounds for these games with something like this, but it's just too much work for such low performance. And I definitely recommend one of these Ryzen 5 5500U laptops, like the one I recently reviewed, which you're gonna get very similar performance to this laptop here, pretty much identical almost, but it's not gonna run as hot, it's not gonna consume as much power, and the temperatures are gonna be a lot better, I mean significantly better, and it's just more compatible. I was able to run any game, I was very surprised, any game on 720p on lowest settings. Had no problems with the driver issues at all. So it's really something to think about. And now, even if you jump into the Ryzen 5 4500U laptops, which came out in 2020, it'll still be a better choice than something like this. This thing is just too big, too bulky, and requires too much power, and just too much issues running games with this now. And surprisingly enough, people still want a lot of money for a laptop like this on the used market. And I think you could scoop up a Ryzen 5 APU laptop for a similar price. So I would definitely go with that. Alright, so that concludes it for this game. Let's run one more and then we'll wrap it up. Alright, so I'm gonna wrap it up now with one last game, Resident Evil Village, and surprisingly, this is one of the better performers, and it started up with no issues, so I'm very happy about that. So let's take a look at the settings here. Of course, it's gonna be 720p. As you can see, we have only 2 gigs of VRAM available. I'm clearly in red here, and I'm using the VSync on option to cool down those temperatures, and pretty much the lower settings here. Just to get you know, decent FPS. That's what we got here. Temperatures are looking a little bit better than the previous game. Not bad. Now, what's this laptop good for? I think stationary wise, it's good. Definitely not on the go. The battery life on this sucks, especially in gaming. I mean, you're probably gonna, in 1 hour or less, if you do some gaming, this thing will run out. It has to be always plugged in, really, in my opinion. And definitely not ideal for on the go. It's good to play some of the older games like Grand Theft Auto 5, for instance. In the esport games are going to be good for it as well. I would definitely not recommend you guys buying this unless you get it for like something really cheap, like $100. Then you should be okay. That, again, that's just my opinion. You can see it's running this game pretty nicely. But again, that's with you know, plugged in. Got the power plant on performance. NVIDIA control panel, everything maximum performance. And that's one of the reasons you see the temperature so high too, because we're really pushing the wattage on both here on the CPU and the GPU. If you turn all that stuff down, your temperatures would be better as well. And maybe even open this up and you know, clean the thermal paste, repaste it. I don't know how much work you want for something like this. It really depends on you. So that's pretty much it for this review. It's time to pass this bad boy to someone else. I had this thing for a while. It was fun, but the new games just require a lot more modern stuff, and it's just unfortunate here. Uh-oh, who's coming? Who's coming? Damn it. Come on. What do you got there? Ooh, okay. Come on, somebody gonna come or what? Oh, there we go. Oh, come on. Alright then, that concludes this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.